So the clear evidence is that Keir Starmer is crumbling, and this crisis engulfing the Prime Minister and his government over proposed welfare reforms could erase his authority, could um, wobble his authority. It's no exaggeration to say that this has become a defining test of his authority less than a year into office, with over 120 Labour MPs threatening to derail the legislation. Starmer talked yesterday in the Commons about his colleagues, and he said repairing the mess that the Conservatives had left behind. We all want to sort this out. That was his language, but it was language of reconciliation or capitulation. And Starmer finds himself frantically negotiating to avoid a humiliating Commons defeat or to avoid relying on Kemi Badenoch. It's not merely a policy argument, it's a battle for control of the Labour Party with profound consequences for how Britain is governed over the next few years. The Universal Credit and Personal Independence Payment Bill, the stuff linked to PIP, aims to save £5 billion annually by 2030. It proposes to tighten eligibility for the PIP, for the PIP, for personal independence payments, the main disability benefit, to reduce the sickness-related element of universal credit, to phase in changes over time, with transitional support lasting 13 weeks for existing claimants. And the government argues that these reforms are essential to address what it calls a broken welfare system. Costs are spiralling. Spending on working age disability benefits has surged from £36 billion in 2019 to over £52 billion today, projected to reach £66 billion by the end of the decade. Yet these reforms have provoked outrage across Labour's own benches. Over 120 Labour MPs, more than enough to obliterate Starmer's working majority, have signed a reasoned amendment to block the bill. And they argue the proposed cuts will push hundreds of thousands into poverty. The measures have been developed without adequate consultation with disabled people, and they will penalise some of the most vulnerable, especially with those with mental health conditions and chronic pain. Of course, the issue about consultation is something that has appeared again and again in this government. Proposals are made, bills are enacted without proper consultation, and the Treasury says, yes, well, this is our reasoned projection, and it turns out to be false. It turns out to be wrong again and again and again. This rebellion is not confined to the usual suspects on Labour's left. It includes mainstream MPs, newly elected members in marginal seats, and party grandees such as Sadiq Khan, the Mayor of London, and Andy Burnham, supporting dissent from behind the scenes. And the political symbolism is striking. A government with a massive Commons majority now hostage to its own backbenchers. If the Conservative or if the opposition cannot provide a reasoned opposition, that opposition will turn up in its own ranks. In the government's own ranks. This is what I said months ago, and this is now proven to be the case. A government needs a healthy opposition, and Kemi Badenoch hasn't done that. She has wrecked our country, and she has wrecked the government. Not enough to bring the government down, but enough to make it inadequate. That is not the job of His Majesty's loyal opposition. The job of His Majesty's opposition is to make government work. So Downing Street has scrambled to offer significant concessions. Existing PIP claimants will keep their benefits under the current rules, with new rules applying only to new claimants from 2026. The universal credit health element will be protected in real terms for existing recipients and those with severe conditions. A new ministerial review, co-produced with disability groups, will examine eligibility rules. Additional employment support will be front-loaded to help disabled people into work. In total, these changes could reduce the expected savings by billions, blowing a hole in Rachel Reeves' carefully balanced budget plans, but that hole was already there. Even with these concessions, many Labour MPs remain unmoved. MPs such as Richard Burgon have dismissed them as making a very bad bill look less awful, while still forcing people into poverty. Others warn of a two-tier system emerging between old and new claimants. And more broadly, there's fury at what many describe as shambolic management by Number 10. Threats of withdrawing the whip and turning the vote into a confidence motion of only inflamed tensions. One backbencher described the government as operating on autopilot, oblivious to the human and political costs of its own policies. This rebellion is not simply ideological, it's deeply rooted in constituency politics, and many of the new Labour MPs were elected in marginal seats promising to be local champions first and party loyalists second. They are acutely sensitive to constituent anger, with overflowing inboxes and viral social media posts turning any unpopular policy into a political crisis overnight. For these MPs, supporting welfare cuts is electoral suicide. They fear being seen as betraying those who lent Labour their votes last year. And this episode also exposes Labour's internal contradictions. It's a party that won on promises of economic credibility, but many of its MPs remain instinctively opposed to austerity. Ultimately, this confrontation may well mark the end of Keir Starmer's unchallenged authority over his party. It's revealed poor political management at the centre, a failure to build consensus before introducing such a contentious bill, and deep divisions over the direction of Labour's economic policy. By caving in with concessions, Starmer risks emboldening future rebellions not only over welfare, but on tax, spending and other hard choices. Yet if he presses ahead and loses, he may face calls for a vote of no confidence, with the government humiliated only months into its term. This is the dilemma at the heart of modern Labour: the need to govern with fiscal discipline while maintaining the loyalty of a party that sees itself as the champion of the vulnerable. Keir Starmer promised stability and seriousness in government. Whether he can deliver it while holding his own party together remains now an open question, and it looks uncertain.